What is the biggest problem we face? Trials and temptations, pressures, temptation. Those who want holiness in their life, the greatest problem they face is temptation. Some of us may think our financial difficulties are our greatest problem. They are not. What we call financial difficulties are because we compare ourselves with the other person. You may say, that sister has got 20 pairs of clothes, I have only got 6. So I say, a financial difficulty. Do you know there are other people in the world who got only 1? They think you are rich. You think the other person's rich. The person who's got 20 looks at some rich sister who's got 200 and thinks she has got financial difficulty. See, this financial difficulty is always a relative thing. A person who desires holiness in his or her life sees that the greatest problem is not that I have so few clothes or my food I can eat is very simple. That's all nothing. This is what is there. If I have 2 pairs of clothes, it's enough. I can wash one and wear the other. And if my food just enough to keep me living on this earth, that's enough. The greatest problem a person who's seeking after godliness faces is not any of these things. It's temptation. Lord, how can I be pure? How can I be holy? None of these things. I remember reading a testimony of a brother who was preparing to be a missionary. He didn't have money to buy toothpaste. And he says, I discovered that I can brush my teeth with just a brush without toothpaste. Who said you need toothpaste? You can use soap to clean up your teeth. See, these are not the essential things of life. A man who's seeking godliness does not feel, oh, I'm so poor, I can't buy toothpaste. Do you know the number of people in India who live without toothpaste? We are used to a certain standard, and when we don't have that, we think, oh, I'm so poor. Rubbish. If you come to my church, you'll hear that word very often. I believe all this is rubbish. True godliness. A man who's seeking after godliness, he doesn't care if he doesn't have toothpaste, he doesn't even care if he doesn't have a toothbrush. He can brush with his hands, like most of people in India do. A little salt, a little coal powder, anything, or nothing. Like the monkeys do, just bite the outside of a coconut. That's how they clean their teeth. Okay. My point is this, that a person seeking after godliness is concerned because he's not able to overcome sin. That's his greatest burden. And he says, Lord, I hope you understand, not that I don't have toothpaste and a toothbrush, but that I'm struggling to be holy. That's what it says in verse 15. He was tempted in all points as we are. That's why he can sympathize with us. He was tempted. That means he felt the pull of temptation. Otherwise, he couldn't be tempted like us. When Satan tempted him, he felt a pull. And he said, no. If he didn't feel that pull, it's no temptation. Temptation means you feel a pull. If there's no pull, there's no temptation. It's like a tug of war. You know, tug of war, people holding a rope. If nobody's pulling at the other end, there's no tug of war. There's no war. But it's even if one person is pulling at the other end, I feel it. Temptation is like that. You know, when you're trying to hold on to a holy life, you feel a pull in the other direction. That is called temptation. And when it says Jesus was tempted, in other words, it's the same as saying he felt a pull. And he said no. If you say he did not feel any pull, then you have to say he was not tempted. Then you have to say the Bible is a lie. In Matthew chapter 4, it says the devil tempted him. 40 days, it says. And here it says he was tempted in all points as we are. And temptation is always a temptation to commit sin. There's no temptation to go to sleep or temptation to eat food, because eating food is normal. If you eat too much, that could be a temptation. If you sleep too much, that could be a temptation. Even sexual relationship in marriage is not a temptation. That's normal. Outside marriage, it's temptation and sin. So these are normal desires. To say that Jesus was tired and he felt sleepy, that's what it means here, that's also rubbish. He was tempted like me to sin, but he didn't sin. Never. Is that an example for me? Yes. Because we saw in chapter 2:17, he was made like us in all things. He was not an angel with wings. He came without his wings, so that he can teach us to swim. He can teach us to overcome the law of gravity because he felt the law of gravity. When Jesus walked on the water, he actually overcame the law of gravity. If an angel walked on the water, that would not be a miracle, because an angel can fly. Jesus did not have wings. It was a miracle because he overcame the law of gravity. And when he told Peter that you can also walk, he was saying, you can do the same as I do if you trust in me. The Father in heaven is not partial to his eldest son. What he did for Jesus, he'll do for you. So he was tempted in all points as we are, yet without sin. And he is our example. So whenever I'm tempted today, I can look to Jesus and say, Lord, sometime in your earthly life in Nazareth, you were also tempted exactly like I'm being tempted today. Are you tempted to be discouraged? Jesus was tempted, but he didn't get discouraged. I say, Lord, I want to look at your example and follow you. And then I realized that he lived like that through the power of the Holy Spirit. So I seek for the power of the Holy Spirit to live like that. That's why it says in verse 16, let us therefore means what? There's a little proverb which says that whenever you see the word therefore, you must see what it is there for. Why is it there? It's there to refer to the previous verse. That Jesus was tempted like us and didn't sin. Therefore, what can we do? We can also go to the throne of grace like he went, that we can receive mercy and grace. Now, Jesus did not need mercy. Do you know there's a difference between mercy and grace? I've met multitudes of Christians who've never been able to define for me the difference between mercy and grace. Let me explain it to you in a very simple way. Mercy deals with our past, grace with the future. Mercy deals with the sins I've committed, grace to help me overcome sin in my life. Mercy they had in the Old Testament. Grace came only in the New Testament through Jesus Christ. We read that in John 1:17. We need mercy and grace. Jesus needed only grace because he never sinned. There was no trace of sin in him. By the grace of God, he tasted death. Now, when we look at this verse, we can look at it like this. What is our time of need? It says in verse 16, grace to help us in our time of need. What is our time of need? Our time of need is when we are tempted. It's like if you are climbing a mountain and you're trying to climb a rock and you slip and you're hanging there by your fingers. That's your time of need. And if you don't cry for help at that time, what happens? You fall and you break your bones and then you cry for help. That is also your time of need. And then the ambulance comes, picks you up, takes you to the hospital, fixes your bones. That is mercy. That's good. We fall into sin. We break something in our life. We ask God for help. The ambulance called mercy comes, picks us up, cleanses us, forgives our sin, and we are okay. But it would have been much better if you had called for help before you fell, right? While you're hanging there, if you say, Lord, I'm slipping, please help me. That would be grace to help you. Arms would come under your armpits and lift you up and put you on the rock. That is grace. So when should you ask for help? After you've fallen? That is second best. Ask for help before you fall. To ask for help after you've fallen is to ask for mercy. To ask for help before you fall is to ask for grace. Sin shall not rule over you because you're under grace. Most Christians only ask for mercy. They fall, ask God to forgive them. They go climbing again they fall, they ask for the ambulance. And every time the ambulance comes, is that the way you want to live? Always fall, have your bones broken, go to the hospital, come back again fall. A lot of Christians live like this. That's not God's will. God's will for you is next time you're tempted, in your time of need, before you fall, ask for help. Lord, give me grace now. And God gives you grace to stand. You try it next time when you're tempted to be angry, tempted to lust, tempted to dirty thoughts. You resist it, and then you find you're slipping. Lord, give me grace. And after some time you'll find, hey, I didn't sin. I didn't lose my temper there. I didn't lust. That's wonderful.